Hello everyone. So welcome back again. And today we are going to see question number 8 of UPSC Mains 2024 GS paper 1. 2024 GS paper 1 question number 8 we are going to see. So we have already discussed 7 questions. So those who haven't seen, you can refer to the description box there. The link is there. So the question is, distinguish between gender equality, gender equity and women's empowerment. Then the second part is, why is it important to take gender concerns into account in program design and implementation? 150 words, 10 marks question it is. So let's check out what should be the approach. So what are the directive words we are finding here? So the directive word we are finding here is distinguish. And then we have three things to distinguish: gender equality, gender equity, and women empowerment. So we'll be focusing on the same thing. So let's first, we need to introduce the what gender equality means. So the first thing, then we'll define what gender equity means, and then go to the third thing, women empowerment. So if you're talking about gender equality, what does it mean? It means that we are trying to provide equal rights and opportunity for all gender, isn't it? So we can write equal rights. In short, I'm writing, rest you understand, and opportunity to all gender. Gender equity, if we talk, so it tries to recognize the differences, isn't it? So it tries to recognizes the differences, and then it tries to ensure fair treatment, and sometimes maybe through special measures as, isn't it? Then we have the third term, women empowerment. What do we have? We have the third term as the women empowerment. So what does a women empowerment mean? So it goes beyond equality, isn't it? So we can write it goes beyond the concept of equality, and it involves increasing women's ability to make decisions and control the resources. In short, this is how we can describe women empowerment. Now we have to move to the second part, that why is it important to take gender concern into account in program design. So why? So the first statement, again we can write, addressing gender concern in program design is crucial because why? Because there are certain structural inequalities. Okay, so because there are certain structural inequalities that that often limits women's access to benefit, women's access to benefits. Now, how come? So let's do one thing. We can give an example here. Okay. For example, whatever the rural employment schemes are there. So in case of rural employment scheme, let's write an example in that context. This might ensure equal wages. Okay, very good. Since equal wages act and all those things are there, so equal wages is ensuring what? It is ensuring equality, isn't it? First term. However, for in case of women, unless children mobility, because again that becomes the primary responsibility of the woman. Okay. So unless child care, better word, child care, or transportation, or mobility, we can say, है ना? It is not discussed. Do you think this equity part will be there for the women? No, of course not. Okay? So women, they might remain excluded because of these hindrances. Okay, and that's why what happens ki whatever the programs that are there, that ignores the gender they generally, what happens, they generally fail to address the problems, address the, now we are moving towards the conclusion part and all, okay, address the deep rooted disparities and leads to poor outcome. It leads to what? Poor outcomes, wastage of resources, because again equity is not being practiced, wastage of resources, and of course one more thing, marginalization. So this thing is also happening. Okay. On the other hand, if we are talking about inclusive policy, IP for inclusive policy, they, what do they do? They promote inclusive policies. They promote sustainable development and social justice. Okay. Hence, now the final part. Hence, distinguishing these concepts and integrating gender sensitivity and integrating gender sensitivity is key to effective governance, we can say. Okay, so here is the first question. Now let's check out the second question. Here we have two more questions, question number 9 and 10. So the question is, question number 9, intercaste marriage between castes which have socio-economic parity have increased to some extent, but this is less true for interreligious marriages. Discuss. So here we have to discuss two concerns of the society actually. One is intercaste marriage and the other one is inter-religion marriages. And what is the trigger word or the directive word we have here? The directive word is to discuss that thing. Again, a question of 150 words and 10 marks. So let's check out the approach. Okay. So I mean, we can simply begin that intercaste marriages, particularly among caste with similar economic parity and educational background. So similar economic parity and educational background, है ना, have seen gradual social acceptance, have seen gradual social acceptance. However, this social acceptance is visible in which area? Actually, in urban or semi-urban, not in the rural area. I mean, you won't find it in that context and in that number. So you'll have to mention that thing: urban and semi-urban area. Okay, and that's why what is happening? This is reflecting what? This thing is reflecting what? It is reflecting individual agency, economic mobility, individual. Why it is happening? Of course, economic mobility is the biggest reason. Economic mobility and exposure through education and media. And exposure through education and media. Okay. However, if we talk about inter-religious marriages, they are a concern. What is the reason behind that thing? So it's very, I know it's very less common due to what? The first thing, very deep social resistance persisting in the society. Deep social resistance in the society. Then again, one more thing, people are very much orthodox towards religion, so we can use a term here, religious orthodoxy, religious orthodoxy. And one more thing, how come we can forget politics? So political polarization. So these are the triggering things that are playing a very important role. Okay. However, is there certain framework or is there certain law and regulation? Yes. So we can mention that thing, legal framework. Okay, legal framework like Special Marriage Act, Special Marriage Act. It exists, है ना, but it is facing a lot of hurdles and backlash. Society is not accepting. Okay, what is the reason? The reason is fear of social boycott. The first thing, and people have this honor, honor violence, better word, and honor cases, all those things, and the most important thing, increasing the cases of communalism or communal violences. Okay, so these things are doing what? These things are discouraging the interreligious marriages. Okay, so now coming back to the, moving towards the end of the answer, so we will finish like caste, although rigid, although rigid, is increasingly being moderated, is gradually being moderated. How come it is getting moderated? It is getting moderated because of increasing education, religious identity, these kind of things. Okay, so we'll mention that thing. And thus conclusion now, thus while socio-economic parity can weaken caste barrier, can weaken the caste barrier, religion often acts as a stronger divider. Religion often acts as a stronger divide, and thus there is a huge difference. And interreligious marriages are becoming difficult despite of legal support and all. Okay, so this is how you can take the approach for question number 9. That was, intercaste marriage between castes which have socioeconomic parity have increased to some extent, of course. However, interreligious marriages, they are very, very less. Okay, now moving to the question number 10, last question of this video. In dealing with socio-economic issues of development, what kind of collaboration between government, NGO, and private sector would be most productive? So, what is the directive word here? So, the directive word here is the kind of collaboration they are focusing on. Okay, so we'll have to focus on what? We'll have to focus on roles, complementarity, and then again examples of successful collaborations. So let's move on towards the answer, approach of the answer, model answer. Question number 10. So we'll begin with the basic things like addressing, complex social economic issues like poverty. Question number 10. So addressing complex social economic issues like poverty, education, health. These things, they actually require a collaborative governance model involving. Now it will involve whom? Involving government, NGO, and the private sector. Involving government, NGO, and private sector. Okay. Now, how come it is happening? So the first thing, how is government playing the important role? So let's talk about. So government is providing what? It provides us the scale, the legitimacy, and of course the most important thing, the funding. So that part. If you talk about NGO, how come they are playing an important role? So they are bringing grassroots insight, because they are working very, uh, the grassroots level, grassroots insight, the trust of the community trust, and of course innovation, because they are doing a lot of R&D on all these things. Private sector, how they are playing an important role. So let's discuss that part as well. So they are offering what? They are offering again the capital part, the technology, and managerial efficiency, we can just say. Those will come and manage the things. Managerial efficiency. Okay, so now we have to focus key. which will be the most productive collaboration? Don't you think you know, if you say the most collaborative or the most productive collaborations are those where roles are clearly refined and yet interlinked, isn't it? I mean, what is the role of the government, what is the role of NGO, and what is the role of the private sector, all these things. So example ले लेते हैं इसका यहाँ पे. For example, we'll see, you can for example, you can see the example of public health, that part, then government schemes like Ayushman Bharat and all those things, है ना? And these things can partner with what? These things can partner with the NGO for a better outreach, है ना? And of course, private hospitals, private hospitals for what? How come private hospitals will help? They will help in the service delivery. Private hospitals will help in the service delivery. Okay. So the CSR funds can also be aligned with the government policies. So CSR funding alignment can also be discussed in the answer. Okay. Then co-creation, transparency, and shared goals. Co-creation, transparency, and shared goals. These are the key to successful what? Partnership. Okay. So such synergy ensures that the delivery is being given to the last mile of the people. Even the last mile people are getting all the resources, and the resources are efficiently being used, and there is sustainability for the same thing. And that's why, moving to the conclusion, thus uh, collaborative ecosystem with mutual accountability, and complementary strength, is essential. Essential for what? Essential for inclusive development. I know handwriting might be very poor, but the thing is that, yeah, I'm thinking I'm writing, and not very much habituated of writing on an iPad. So sooner or later this thing is also going to be very fine. However, thank you for supporting. So by now we have completed till question number 10. In the next video we'll see 3 to 4 more questions. I hope you liked the video. So if you like, please do share, subscribe. I can put an animation as well, but this feels good because I am very much connected to my writing part. Okay, bye bye. See you again.